Welcome to New Mombasa. Bam! We need every able body we can get, even yours. You boys can thank me later. Right now I got selling to do.
Sergeant Major Avery Johnson, a man who really needs no introduction. He's one of the greatest side characters in all of fiction. Cool, collected, and undisputably badass. But if you were a UNSC Marine, would he be somebody worth following? Is he a good leader? This is a new series I'm going to be doing where we break down the leadership qualities and ability of fictional characters. And I couldn't think of anybody better to start it off with than Johnson. We'll talk about the character's background, what exactly it takes to be a good leader, and well, it's time to get tactical. Let's get into it.
Regret. Catchy.
Any idea what it means?
Dear humanity, we regret being alien bastards. We regret coming to Earth. And we most definitely regret the Corps just blew up our raggedy-ass fleet. Hoorah!
So Johnson is probably one of the characters I would say is the most full circle in the lore of Halo. Not only is he born on Earth in 2474 on the mean streets of Greater Chicago, he grew up basically in the mud, just like a lot of us, and like a lot of us, especially those with daddy issues, he decided to join the military, in his case the Marines. His background, being raised by his aunt, was actually extremely important to Johnson. She not only took him to church, but she also made sure he was dressed extremely well, relative to his position. When he joined the Marines, it didn't take long for him to stand out. If you read the book Contact Harvest, you learn that one of his main motivations was actually the insurrection, a massive civil war that had taken the form of suicide bombing and terrorism all across human-controlled space. Even as a young grunt, this Marine Johnson was actually selected for a lot of different schools and special training. And of course, this standout was chosen for the Orion Project, the predecessor to the Spartan IIs. Now, with a human insurrection, it would actually make a lot of sense that the UNSC, or ONI in particular, would attempt to create super soldiers. As a part of the Orion program, he was actually granted entrance into their sniper school, where he was one of the best snipers there. We see this skill later in the games. And of course, he also learned how to use orbital drop pods. In addition, the close quarters battle in hand-to-hand combat. All of this as a corporal. Later on, he was actually present on Harvest when they had the first contact with the Covenant. He was one of the first people to actually get a Covenant kill. Him and his partner, his co-NCO, Sergeant Byrne, actually killed 4 Jackals, the first ones to do so. He would then take the militia that he trained himself into combat against them. And of course, this being the beginning of the Human-Covenant War, he spent most of his time fighting against the Covenant. Many of those battles being extremely dangerous, which, of course, he survived them all. The first time we actually see him in the games is, well, one of the first scenes in Halo CE, the Battle of Installation 04. Here he gives a pretty rousing speech, definitely inspired by the real-life counterpart, Sergeant Apone, from my favorite movie, Aliens.
We come here and we're going to conquer and we're going to take some. Is that understood? Yes, sir. That's what we're going to do, sweetheart. We are going to go and get some. All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! What are you? Hudson! Get on the ready line, Marine! Get something to die! Get on the ready line! Yo! Move it out, goddammit! Get hot! 1, 2, 3! Come on, get out! Get out! Get out! Move it 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 out!
Absolutely badasses. Let's pack them in. Get in there. You heard the lady. Move like you got a purpose.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Once again, it is our job to finish what the flyboys started. We are leaving this ship platoon and engaging the Covenant on solid ground. When we meet the enemy, we will rip their skulls from their spines and toss them away laughing. Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
Damn right I am. Now move it out. Double time.
Attention all personnel. We are re-engaging the enemy. External and internal contact imminent.
All you greenhorns who wanted to see Covenant up close, this is going to be your lucky day.
The next time we see him is actually us taking control of the Master Chief. When we land on the ring, Sergeant Johnson is actually being seen organizing a defense of a Forerunner pylon where his Marines had landed. Now this is where canon gets a little bit tricky, because in-game we do see his model all over the ring. But canonically, his next battle was actually accompanying Captain Keyes to search for the large Forerunner weapons cache located in a creepy little swamp. Of course, we know how this ends. The flood is unleashed and Johnson is the only survivor. This isn't known until we see him next in First Strike, where Chief almost blows his head off after remembering that this guy was the one they saw with Captain Keyes being devoured by the flood. He, Master Chief, and a few others actually end up taking a Covenant cruiser, the Ascendant Justice, after the ring is destroyed. And the next time we see Johnson is actually in Halo 2. So in Halo 2 is the first time we actually hear that he is the rank of Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major, if you don't know, is actually the highest non-commissioned, which is a sergeant rank that you can get in the military. So he went from probably a staff sergeant to a sergeant major after surviving the Battle of the Ring. He then participates in the defense of the orbital station that they're on, where he protects the daughter of Captain Keyes, Miranda Keyes. After helping the Chief destroy a Scarab and defend Old Mombasa, he evacs the Spartan and gets him out of there, and they reach the Inamber Clad just in time to follow the Prophet of Regret into the slip space, where of course Johnson then again sees the second ring, nearly dying of cigar inhalation. He takes command of the flight of Pelicans and he follows Chief and the other ODSTs in and drops off supplies and reinforcements enough for him to be able to actually assassinate the Prophet of Regret, one of the highest level people in the Covenant. Johnson and a hand-picked group of his best Marines, along with Commander Keyes, set off to find the Index inside the flood quarantine zone. Easily the most dangerous thing he's done yet, but they of course succeeded. After suffering heavy losses, they were able to make it all the way to the Index, where of course they're intercepted by the Arbiter, and eventually Tartarus. This leads to the first time of many that we see Johnson actually get captured. But before that happens, he actually has a one-on-one fight with the Arbiter. After his capture, we see that he and Keyes are split up in Phantoms on High Charity by order of Truth, and Johnson is taken by the Brutes as a backup in case he breaks Commander Keyes. Of course, after being freed by the Arbiter and avoiding execution, Johnson somehow climbs into a Scarab and is able to pilot it almost instantly. With his universal key, he then helps the Arbiter get inside the control room, and they together stop Tartarus from activating the rings. After this, of course, our merry little band make it to Earth before Chief somehow, and he's there to welcome the Master Chief as he falls from orbit. After being captured by Brutes again, he's able to get the Master Chief back to their base, and they begin their assault to take out AA guns and clear the way to the portal of the Ark, which they only knew because Sgt Johnson himself interrogated the engineer from Halo 3 ODST. When the Flood arrive and they get the message from Cortana about High Charity coming to kill them all, Johnson does not hesitate. He, Chief, and Commander Keyes, they take the Forward Unto Dawn into the portal along with the elites, and immediately engage the Brutes in combat. Johnson takes some Pelicans and the Chief, and without a fighter escort, make their way all the way down to the Ark. He then acts as a guiding light for the Chief, giving him navigation and guidance as to where to go on this unfamiliar construct, and where exactly a good LZ would be to bring in the Forward Unto Dawn. He's then trusted in the final assault to kill Truth, to take his Marines, alongside the Arbiter and his elites, and the Master Chief and his ODSTs, to take down one of the towers projecting the shield. Unfortunately, he chose the short stick in this draw, and his men were ambushed, and he was captured yet again by the Brutes. Once the shield is down, it's an all-on push to kill Truth. And of course, Johnson's used by him to activate the rest of the rings at the Ark. Luckily for him, Miranda comes in barreling along with Chief on the ground with the Arbiter. Johnson's rescued, but at the cost of Commander Keyes. With the aftermath of Truth's death, the last time we actually see Johnson is him somehow piloting the Forward Unto Dawn by himself and driving a Warthog to support the Chief and Arbiter as they try and activate prematurely the ring. In the control room of this ring, a copy of the first one that started it all, Johnson is killed by the scumbag 343, Guilty Spark, and the last thing we do for him is send him out with a bang. So I think the question has to be asked before we can dive into him actually being a good leader or not. What exactly is a good leader? So the first thing I will say is this can be broken down to a lot of little components. I will try to keep it under 10. The first one is, are they a master of their craft? Are they good at their job? Are they competent? The second one, do they have high standards and do they meet them themselves? This includes everything from your dress, to your physical fitness, to your behavior. The third thing is, how do they motivate their men? Do their men want to fight with them? Would they follow them if they were not ordered to? The fourth one, leading by example. Do they talk the talk? A lot of people can do that, but do they also walk the walk? Do they ask their men and their women to do things that they would not do themselves or that they've never done for themselves? Number 5, do they understand the big picture as a leader? This varies a little bit from the type of leader, but are they only focused on what's in front of them, or can they think past what they see? The sixth thing, do they spend lives or do they waste lives? This usually comes along with empathy, and I don't mean that in the emotional way. I think of this as, do they actually value the people underneath them for what they are? People die in war, but we want to make sure you're not wasting those sacrifices. The seventh thing, military bearing. How exactly does this character present themselves to both us and to the people who follow them? Are they emotional? Are they showing fear? Are they showing hesitation? People don't want to follow people who don't have bearing, who can't control their emotions. The eighth thing, are they cool? This may sound a little bit ridiculous, but this is actually pretty big. Do your men underneath you, are they proud to actually say you're their leader? If you were to tell somebody you were a fan of Sgt Johnson, how would they react? This is especially important in entertainment, but it's definitely important in real life. Number 9, adaptability. Do you learn from your mistakes, or do you keep making the same mistake over and over again? Can you take criticism? How do you react when you fail? And number 10, does this leader eat last? This is extremely prevalent in the military where they take it to a literal degree. Is Sgt Johnson, or whatever leader you're thinking of, would they literally eat last if there was only a limited amount of food? Would their guys, would they lower enlisted, would they eat before them? Are they in what we call the suck with the guys? Are they using their privilege and their rank to get out of both responsibility and danger? Of course, being out of danger is definitely a perk of a lot of officer classes, but as an NCO, that's not really your job. And so let's get into it. Is Sergeant Major Johnson competent? Competency as an NCO is a lot of things. The first thing I will take into account is his combat competence. Him not being a coward and being alive for the entirety of the war straight up tells me that he is competent. One of the most competent, somewhat altered soldiers. But him being on the front line, which is usually the most dangerous place, him still being alive, and actually, of course, we see his skills in person, in game. But in the lore, he's one of the best Marines that exist in the UNSC. In gameplay, we usually see him as a sniper, which of course, him going to sniper school, most people, and I'm not sure how they do it in the UNSC, we see in Halo 2 that some snipers actually do use spotters. Johnson does not. So as a sniper, he's extremely deadly. We see that in the books, we see that in Contact Harvest. He's one of the best Marines you can actually have in Halo 2 especially. We don't see a ton of him in Halo 3 as far as frontline combat, but him being able to use a Spartan laser the way he does in the last mission is, of course, amazing. In Halo CE, we actually see him mount a pretty good defense in the first time we see him on the ring itself. He has small squads protecting some of the flight crew who are basically non-combatants, and they're able to hold out long enough for the Master Chief to come along. When the next time we see him at the weapons depot where we first see the Flood in Halo CE, I think anybody short of Master Chief himself would not be able to rescue Captain Keyes or that squad, especially since they had no idea what they were walking into. But him alone being able to get out is one hell of a feat. In the book First Strike, it talks about Boron syndrome, where he basically is immune to the Flood. I've never really liked this. I always assumed it was just his competency and his ability as a Marine to get out. I like my headcanon a lot better in that regard. In Halo First Strike, in that book, we actually see him alongside another ODST and Chief and a couple other people. They take an entire ship from the Covenant by themselves. Of course, he has Master Chief with him, but he's not exactly a liability for him. There's only a liability. He doesn't have Mjolnir armor. And Master Chief would 100% be dead without him. He's so competent, in fact, that one of the big dilemmas in that book is whether or not the Master Chief should give the information of him having Boron syndrome immunity to the Flood to Oni to have him dissected, and he chooses not to. If he was a liability on those missions, he probably would have given him up. We actually see him in the beginning of Halo 2 being awarded, I think it is a Purple Heart, but he obviously has many other awards because of his actions on the original Halo. And of course, he's one of the leaders who actually rallies the Marines to kick back the Covenant, in addition to, of course, Chief. He's able to fight his way, him and Commander Keyes, to their frigate. And when they get on the ground, he's one of the few people able to get his birds, of course, in harm's way, but into the fight. And when they crash, after getting hit by a scarab of all things, he rallies the Marines and gets them out of the crash site before the Chief is even awake.
Hey, wake up.
Shake it off, Marines! Clear the crash site. Go, go, go!
And of course, him being captured in Halo 2 does nick him a little bit, but not really, because he is facing the Arbiter in one-on-one combat. I doubt any other Marine would survive that, or give up as much of a fight as he did, given that the Arbiter is, of course, one of the best fighters in the Covenant at that point.
How you doing?
After escaping, him being able, which I think might be one of his greatest feats, to pilot a Scarab, which nobody in the UNSC has ever been able to do, up to that point especially. He's able to figure out the controls almost immediately. And of course, him and his sniping skills helps the Arbiter kill Tartarus. Of course, Johnson again in Halo 3 is extremely competent. I would actually love to see him as a Spartan. But he's able to lead a pretty good defense of the base, only losing it to a million drones and a bunch of brutes. And him being able to pilot his way and lead the Pelicans down for the Battle of the Ark, only losing one of them in this formation, is just absolutely insane.
Truth ship isn't taking part in the attack. He must have gone to ground.
Roger that, ma'am. We're on him. Kick the door.
Sergeant Major. She'll hold.
All right, pop the hatch.
This is something that is prevalent in the military. He is never lost, and he's constantly guiding both the chief and the rest of the Marines all over, just using visual surveillance. And then I'm pretty sure one of the more impressive feats he does as well is he's able to pilot an entire frigate by himself, before, of course, being cheap shot by 343 Guilty Spark.
Johnson, do you have the frigate?
Yes, ma'am. I'll land her as close to the control room as I can.
Safe is better than close, Sergeant Major.
Roger that. And ma'am, it's good to have you back.
Halo. It's so new, unfinished. I'm not exactly sure what will happen when we fire it.
We'll head for the portal, and we'll all go home.
And so yeah, I would give his competency a 100 out of 10. For a moderately altered human, he's easily one of the best you'll ever see in gaming. So based on what we see in game and in the lore, does he have high standards for himself and for the others? Well, this is actually a pretty big part of his leadership, so he is always immaculate. His uniform is always good to go. He's always very well groomed. And him being able to train his own militia on Harvest shows that he does live up and can expect the best standards from everybody, including his underlings. So for that one as well, he gets a 10 out of 10. He'd be one of the best people to train you to be in there. And that's kind of the job of the NCOs. If you don't understand what an NCO exactly their purpose is, the standards are literally set in stone by an officer, but they're enforced and lived by the NCOs. And him being a sergeant major, of course his rank changes throughout the series. His main job is to maintain the standard. And of course in his case as a sergeant major, which is the highest rank, he delegates that to his lower NCOs. So let's get into his motivation. Does he motivate the troops underneath him? Do we have to spend much time on this? I'll just play a couple of clips by him. His motivational speeches are legendary.
Where's the rest of your platoon?
Wasted, Sarge.
And we will be too, sir, if we don't get the hell out of here.
You hit Marine?
No, sir.
Then listen up. Usually the good Lord works in mysterious ways, but not today. This here is 66 tons of straight up, HE spewing divine intervention. If God is love, then you can call me Cupid.
What about that Scarab?
We've all run the simulations. They're tough, but they ain't invincible. Stay with the Master Chief. He'll know what to do.
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Thanks for the tank. He never gets me anything.
Halo 1, he gives a Sergeant Apone speech. He's constantly touching his men on the shoulder, motivating them. In Halo 2, he takes one of the Marines who's freaking out after his entire platoon's been wasted by the Scarab, and he gets him to pick up a rocket launcher and follow the Chief across the bridge, which is basically a suicide mission. His presence on the Pelicans, they have a lot of hot landings, and of course Miranda herself says that they needed an escort who isn't afraid of a little hostile gunfire.
Sergeant, I need you on that bird. My Pelicans are going to start airlifting armor and reinforcements into the city. They'll need an escort that isn't afraid of a little hostile ground fire.
Keep an eye on him. Good luck.
All the Marines you see who are joking and jiving the entire campaign are a reflection of the motivation that Sgt. Major Johnson gives. We even see a little bit of this motivation in Halo 3 ODST where he talks to the engineer. Nobody else can get anything out of him, but of course, Sgt. Major Johnson's swag motivates it right out of him.
Lord Hood may have given you clearance, but it was my op and it's my interrogation. We only captured one. It's very delicate.
Don't worry. I know what the alien's like. It has access to the Competence BattleNet?
Limited, but yes. We're not entirely sure how it manages a remote connection to the... What?
Whoa, stand down, stand down!
Sergeant Major, please. It's extremely flammable.
The brutes. The bastards who put bombs on your buddies and killed millions of my people. They're digging a mighty big hole. You're gonna tell me exactly what they're looking for, and then you're gonna help me stop them.
And I think one of the things we see, it definitely is his motivation in Halo 3. While it's not as prevalent, he definitely shows care for the people below him. He's talking to all the wounded as they go by in the Crow's Nest mission. He's definitely an NCO that everybody would want to fight for. And so of course that one, again, I would give that a badass out of 10. And so number 4, leading by example. Does Sgt. Major Johnson lead by example? I think we all know the answer to that. The answer is a resounding yes. We all know that if it wasn't for his rank, he would be on the ground with Chief almost the entire time. He is basically the definition of talking the talk, and of course, being there from the very beginning and fighting all the way to the end, he definitely walks the walk. We see that in every time we see him. Number 5, understanding the big picture. This is a little bit trickier to see in the games because Johnson is basically just a one-line machine, a funny one-line machine at that. Him as a Sergeant Major, and especially being friends with both Captain Keyes and Commander Keyes, he would basically, especially at a mission planning, because both of these Keyes apparently like to go on these suicide missions, he is in on a lot of this planning. He understands what's going on with the bigger picture just at a subcutaneous level. He also never complains when he's being asked by Commander Keyes, especially in Halo 2, to get out of the fight and start bringing these flights of Pelicans in to reinforce the city. He knows the effect that his presence has on his crew, and so bringing in more people and more support and more supplies, that's a lot more important than fighting on the ground. So he himself is definitely a force multiplier in that regard. He also is really good at the timing of bringing in supplies and reinforcements for the Chief. So number 6, do they spend or waste lives? This one I think is obvious as well. Sergeant Major Johnson, I don't think, with any kind of foresight or foreknowledge, he would not have wasted any of these guys' lives. He just happened to be around when some of the worst stuff happened, like the flood coming out at first initially. The only thing I could think would be him advising Commander Keyes in Halo 2 to wait until the Chief was ready to be able to go and get the index. But of course, I don't think at this point that they actually know that humans are required to use it. But of course, we know if they would have just stayed back and sat back, they would have not been able, at least for a while, to activate the ring, especially with the flood going crazy. But this might be more on the Commander Keyes than Sergeant Johnson, because he wasn't exactly the one making all the decisions at this point. He was just trying to do them as well as he could, which is exactly what a good NCO would do. We just don't know what kind of advice he was giving him. I would assume he was just giving the functionality and the what happened last time to Commander Keyes. And just the fact that he's on the front lines with his men a lot of the time, he's definitely not wasting their lives. And so we have number 7, military bearing. How are they presenting themselves? Is there ever a time when we see Sgt. Major Johnson, no matter what he's faced with, even the Flood, he never shows fear. He never shows hesitation. He's always cool, calm, and collected. Even when he's almost being eaten by the brutes or consumed by the Flood, we never see him break, especially in front of his men. Even if you're faking it, you have to try to make it authentic for your men. And I don't doubt for a second that their men always thought that their Sgt. Major Johnson was just in there, in the fight with them, good to go. So of course, the highest marks for military bearing. Not to mention he's always smoking a cigar. I'm sure that definitely helps with his anxiety. And speaking of smoking cigars, number 8, are they cool? You would be very hard pressed to convince me that Sgt. Major Johnson isn't one of the coolest people in fiction. And of course, he's based off one of the coolest people in movies, which, of course, one of my favorite movies, Alien, Sergeant Apone. But you have here a Sergeant Major who smokes giant cigars. He knows what the ladies like.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
Has some of the best one-liners in entertainment history, and somehow doesn't lose any cool points despite the fact that he's been captured about 3 times in 2 games. That's one of his core defining features, is that he gets captured all the time, but somehow he's still just as badass as he was before the first time. We don't even need to go over this. This is a 10 million out of 10. One of the coolest characters in fiction, like I said. And so here we go with number 9, Adaptability. This might be the only thing where he gets a little bit dinged. And I'm not even sure if it's his fault. He is extremely adaptable as far as he can be in the situation. A lot of the time when we see a lot of these characters in Halo, they just don't have a lot of options. And they, of course, with the Halo Forerunner technology and the Flood, they're just in the dark, knowledge-wise a lot of the time. They're learning by fire, quite literally. And I think the only ding he gets is he does get captured several times. And this might just be an officer level problem, but they keep sending these people not with Master Chief, and it feels like Master Chief and the Arbiter are the only ones who can actually get missions through successfully. I think immediately of the 3rd tower, where he just got unlucky and his platoon was dropped where they had a massive ambush. But honestly, if you had the 4th site, which they kind of did, they knew that Truth knew that they were coming. I would have definitely used the spearhead of the Arbiter and Chief, and probably would have just had Johnson supporting both of them with reinforcements. But again, I don't know if that's a him problem so much as it is a Keyes problem. But given that he is surviving till the very end, I think he would be very adaptable. I just think him being captured so many times, it does take away from that, not learning from his mistakes. But again, a lot of those times he was captured, he just had no other choice. Especially when you bring in the context of being in the dark or being sent on missions that were basically impossible for his skill set and the forces he was going up against. And so the last one, and the most important, does Sgt. Johnson eat last? Is he in the suck? Is he in the mud? Is he in the grit with the guys? Does he use his rank and position as a Sergeant Major, which is a very high rank, to get out of combat, to get out of responsibility, to make himself more comfortable? Or does he use that to actually help his guys and live in the suck with them? We listen to the way he talks to his guys, he loves them, even if he doesn't even know who they are. If you're wearing green, he's with you, you're on his team. We see him do everything. He's in the mud with everybody. He's in there with the pilots. He's in there with the Marines. He's watching the back of Captain and Commander Keyes on impossible suicide missions. This is the kind of stuff you could just send a gunnery sergeant out to do. But of course, him, like the Keyes family, they love their suicide missions, but somehow Johnson just survives them. The ultimate question I think you can ask, which will tell you everything you need to know about Sergeant Major Johnson, is if he had 1 MRE left and there was him and 2 Marines and they had to go do a mission, who do you think would be eating? Would it be Johnson or would it be the 2 Marines? I think you'd be surprised at how many people in the real day would choose themselves. But what do you guys think? Would you follow Sergeant Major Johnson into combat? Because I definitely would. I've never had a Sergeant Major exactly like him, but that kind of essence, that is somewhat common I've seen. But of course, in my experience, it's been a tale of 2 extremes. I've met a couple Sergeant Majors that were very much a Johnson type archetype where you could tell they were really wanted to be on the front lines with you. And for some reason, those Sergeant Majors tend to be like enormous guys with huge muscles, as if sitting behind at headquarters is driving them insane, so they just lift weights all day. But of course, in the Halo universe, when you're in a losing genocidal war, you couldn't, even if you wanted to, you have to be on the front lines. And I do think that them basing it off of Sergeant Apone from Aliens, which, like I said, is one of my favorite movies, brilliant. You can tell a gaming franchise is amazing, like based on the inspirations that they choose to bring forward. And Aliens is definitely one of the best, especially when you have the character archetypes. But I really want to know your guys' opinion. Do you guys think I graded him fairly? Do you guys think he's a bad leader? Do you guys think he's a good leader? And please let me know if you like this kind of thing, because I'm thinking about doing this for a lot more people, especially the bad leaders. Either way, look forward to seeing what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate it, guys. Cheers.